So WIF recently swept this liquidity over here, filled in the fair value gap over here, and proceeded to more than double within 8 days. Now currently, WIF is taking a pretty big dump of about 30%. And this leads a lot of people to the question of what's next? Where is the area to buy the dip? And honestly guys, I see a setup on WIF at the moment that I saw on Bitcoin during the Trump election that ended up being the bottom and the beginning of the pump of Bitcoin. And I'm currently seeing this on WIF as well. Now, just to give you an idea of the exact setup that I'm talking about, this line right here is going to be really key because this is your previous Bitcoin all-time high. Now, I want you to take a look at what happened right before the Trump elections. Basically, a week before the elections, price stopped just short of the previous all-time high and retraced into some kind of value area. Now, this value area that we're talking about is right here. Now, obviously, I have refined the demand zone into a much more narrow zone, which ended up becoming the bottom. And by the way, this works at a really high probability. But the fact doesn't change. Right, you go from a higher time frame, a little bit of a big picture demand zone, and then you refine it down to a lower time frame one to see if you can add any type of confluence into this zone. And then you are able to take a really tight risk to reward, something like this, and really tight stop loss, which maximizes your risk to reward so that you can get trades of up to 10, 20, or even 30R. And also, this is something that you can catch trades within the trend. So even if you miss the bottom, this is something that you can use to catch also momentum trades. And so let's come back to WIF for a moment. And you can see exactly what I mean when I say that the setup on WIF is pretty similar to Bitcoin from before. This is your previous all-time high at 4.9. Currently, you have stopped just shy of the previous all-time high, and you are currently going through a really sharp retrace. And guess what? This is your value area in terms of the daily chart. So anywhere between $3 to $2 is going to be an area where you can definitely buy in. Now, is WIF going to retrace all the way back down there? Maybe not, which is why we need to go onto the lower time frame to find an area of refinement. But doesn't change the idea. Just to add a little bit of confluence to this, if we draw a fib from the bottom of this move to the top of this move, then you can see this area lines up with the 0.705. So ultimately, if WIF returns back to the 2.8 to $3 area, this is going to be an absolutely wonderful area to buy. My exact ideal zone is going to be at about 2.75. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, it's time to hop onto a lower time frame to see if we can refine this further. The moment we hop onto a 4-hourly chart, we can see that we are in some kind of demand area. And this also lines up with the volume profile. Now, this is simply an area where traders have proven that they are willing to trade at these prices. So the fact that you have this kind of tight consolidation here, where, there was a lot of selling, there was a lot of buying, means that there's some kind of notion of fair value over here. And given the fact that price has pumped aggressively out of that area, going up by more than 60% in a matter of a few hours, this, I'm going to bet you that there are a lot of institutional players, a lot of big players and whales here that before their orders have been completely filled, because one thing you have to remember when you're trading alongside the smart money is that their orders are huge. Like we're talking tens of millions to hundreds of millions to, in the case of WIF, we're definitely talking about positions that are that big. And if price goes parabolic before their orders are able to get filled, guess what? There's a lot of limit orders still open here. The moment price dips into a previous volume area, there tends to be a really strong reaction out of the area as long as there is indeed institutional involvement in this area. And you see this a lot with, just to give you an example, this fair value gap over here. The fact that price went so quickly and left an imbalance in price action over here means that there are a lot of traders that have yet to get filled, that the moment price returns into this area, boom, you fill all the orders and you shoot outwards. And this is exactly what it means to be trading alongside the institutional money or just the smart money in general. You guys want to also learn how to do this yourself and how to read what the smart money is doing so that you don't miss out on this bull market and this chance to make generational wealth. I'm about to bring back my free group where I'm going to give you my exact playbook, step by step, my exact trading system, and all of this for free. In the past, 80% of the students that went through this free group ended up becoming profitable. The only reason I had to close it down was because it was too much work to run. Now that we've got different infrastructure in place, it's time to bring back Trading Accelerator for good. If this sounds interesting to you and you just want to get access to it for free, we're launching it in a couple of weeks. Make sure you sign up to the waitlist because not everyone's going to get in, and we're going to let people join on a first come first serve basis because we don't want to let 2,000 people join at a time and then we're not going to be able to answer all the questions. Again, we just want to help you. So help yourself by signing up to the waitlist in the description box below. But otherwise, going back into the video, going back to this volume area, this is going to be the first area where we are going to be interested in buying WIF. Now, earlier on, I said that the ideal area would be around 2.7, but in this case, if we zoom into the just to give you an idea, we did not see any sort of demand zone when we go onto the daily chart. In fact, now Bitcoin is a little bit of an exception because there is a clear demand zone right here with a drop base. That's your drop, that's your base, and that's your rally. So in this case, there was a really clear setup here, but in WIF, we are only able to find this on the 4-hourly chart, right? So just to refine this area a little bit more, we can see a similar setup on Bitcoin where you have a drop, you have a base, and then you have a rally. So this is going to be like very likely a really high probability zone from with your entry at about 3.07 to 3.08, depending on what exchange you're using, your stop loss at about 2.8, and this is going to give you about a 10% stop loss, and your target is going to be beyond the all-time high. And honestly, if we're being honest, WIF is one of those coins that are poised to hit at least $10 billion worth of market cap. In fact, this could very well happen within the end of this year up to maybe January or February next year. Given the fact that Dogecoin managed to hit $60 billion worth of market cap in the past cycle, and Shiba managed to do 40 billion. In fact, speaking about Dogecoin, it's currently also at about $50 billion worth of market cap. So if Dogecoin can do this, like I know this has a lot to do with Elon and the Department of Government Efficiency and stuff like that, but still, if Doge can hit $50 billion worth of market cap, you bet WIF is going to be able to hit between 10 billion and 20 billion, or maybe even $30 billion. So even if we set 10 billion as just a conservative estimate, then this is going to give you a risk to reward of 26 to 1. Now, this is going to be your trade setup number 1 on the 4-hourly chart, just because we cannot see it on the daily chart. Now, I would have preferred to see a really clear demand zone or just a really clear setup on the daily chart because the higher you go in terms of time frame, the more power and the more strength that setup holds. But still, 4-hourly chart is it's still considered a higher time frame, and you have a really clear invalidation for this setup, a really tight stop loss. So even if you do lose, you're not really standing to lose much. And if you do win, you are standing to gain quite a lot. And of course, if this setup fails, we have the previous setup that exists on the daily chart. And just to refine that daily chart setup again, we can also refine it into this zone right here. This is going to be a key demand zone. This is a previous value area. You can see that a lot of trading was done within the zone. So if price were to return back to this area, we are looking for institutional involvement where price is going to give you a pretty sharp bounce out of this zone. So these are going to be the two zones. If this one fails, you have the second one. And honestly, guys, WIF has been my highest conviction token ever since last year, and it is by far my biggest bag, and it has performed really, really well. And one thing I want you guys to keep in mind when it comes to a bull run is that leaders tend to remain leaders. Whatever has performed well in the first half of the bull run tends to perform well in the second half of the bull run as well. Assuming that we're in the second half of the bull run, then WIF being one of the top performers in the first half is very likely going to continue to perform. So if you don't have WIF already, then make sure you get some. If you feel like the crypto bull run is too overwhelming for you and you just want someone to compile some of the top information or just top plays, or just to share some top plays for you, then feel free to also sign up to the free group because we've got something special in surprise for you. Anyways, I'm going to be uploading a lot more of these trade setups moving forward now that the bull market is in full swing. If you want to get exact trade setups like this with really high risk reward and just a lot of value, very little fluff, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. Drop a like on this video if you watched to this point. It truly does help me out a lot. But otherwise, see you in the next video.